Hey everyone, you're listening to the recap by Drawing Capital, the best place to dissect the week's key events and investing in technology in 15 minutes or less. The information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute an offer, solicitation, or recommendation regarding any investment product or service. Any reference is not an endorsement by Drawing Capital, nor a recommendation by Drawing Capital to buy, sell, or hold. Listeners should determine for themselves whether a particular service or product is suited to their needs or should seek professional advice for their particular situation. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to the recap. Today is the 9th of April, and it's certainly been an eventful month and a half in the markets. Just to provide our usual quick overview here, year to date, the S&P 500 is up 9.91% for the year. The NASDAQ, and therefore large cap technology names like FANG stocks, has made a big comeback last month. It now stands at 7.38% for the year after being negative just a few weeks ago. Today, we want to discuss the voice-only chat platform Clubhouse and that social media type of environment, and dive into emerging marketplaces creating greater access to private company shares. But just to kick things off here with Clubhouse, Sagar, maybe could you give us an overview of what that app is for listeners that don't know, and what's been happening, in this segment of the social media space over the last couple of weeks here?
Sure. While the phenomenon of audio is certainly not new, what is new is the ability to leverage audio formats to better connect with people and audiences. So, ranging from radio to phone calls to the iPod to Spotify, and now with the rise of podcasting and Clubhouse, essentially these are just yet another audio format for individuals. And so, what Clubhouse really is, I guess, first taking a step back. So Clubhouse was founded just over a year ago, and today there's rumors on fundraising at a $4 billion market valuation. So clearly, a lot of market cap has been created in such a short amount of time. Clubhouse is essentially an invite-only live audio experience whereby anyone can really, any member can host a chat session with pretty much anyone else in the world. They can essentially log in through the iPhone app. Currently, it's only on iPhone, and it will eventually make its way onto Android as well. And so the idea is someone can have like a live audience. They can either mute all of the audience attendees and then just have a couple of speakers, or then they can, or alternatively, they can have a really engaging back and forth, complete live format. That is different than, let's say, a podcast where typically it is recorded and then uploaded. And that is different than a radio station with music, which may play live streams or live sets on occasion, but the songs are obviously all recorded from artists prior. So this is just yet another a really interesting format. It's had a lot of growth over the past year. Certainly the work from home or work from anywhere environment has helped create this rising surge in popularity amongst Clubhouse users, particularly as more and more people seek social connection in this kind of isolated lockdown environment. And so that's really the story of Clubhouse. It's also backed by A16Z and several other investors, so highly notable, highly popular, and it created somewhat of a social surge in that because it was invite only, it created that prestige and that type of premier environment in terms of exclusivity. So that's really the overview of Clubhouse. Jugal, I know you're really big into audio and music in general, and so I'll pass it on to you now.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have some thoughts about Clubhouse. I think it's a really, really interesting product because at its core, it's so simple. And, up to this day, we've had things like video chats and video calls that have obviously become more popular with COVID. But, you take out the video and then you're just left with the audio. And that's what Clubhouse is effectively. Yet, for some reason, it hasn't gotten popular until sometime last year. And I just find it so interesting that such a simple idea has been sort of hidden from most of the population for so long. And clearly there's been a big desire for something like this. The other thing that's interesting is that when you think about it, with video playback, if you're using something like Zoom or any of the other video conferencing apps, the quality of the video affects the quality of the audio. So when your bandwidth is like not so high for your internet, and your video starts cutting, your audio also starts cutting at the same time. Especially if the company has not figured out how to kind of transition that bandwidth like 100% to the audio side if the video is becoming sort of cut. Um, but with something like Clubhouse, 100% of the focus is on audio only, and so you get sort of like a smoother experience and a smoother flow of information to the user. And the other thing I think about is, a lot of times I watch something like YouTube or Twitch, but I actually have it on in the background and I'm not actually watching the video. So perhaps that could basically just be Clubhouse at the end of the day, where I just want to hear information. I don't really want to see it. The other thing that's going on that's really interesting is a lot of these companies are trying to get into this audio only experience. There's Spotify, who acquired Locker Room. Twitter has created something called Spaces. And then Discord has also created something called Stage Channels. And it's interesting that all these companies are quite different, but all of them have sort of a foot in this audio only experience. Like, for example, Twitter is basically live streaming information. So, like, why don't they get into something like live streaming audio? It seems kind of obvious now that I think about it. Spotify is like obviously a 100% audio company. They do everything audio related. And then Discord is interesting because it's it revolves around gamers. And if I'm a gamer myself, and when I'm talking to people over video games, it's always over a mic. Like nobody's really video chatting each other while playing a game. And so gamers are actually really used to the fact that they're only talking to people and listening, and they're not seeing them in real life. So Discord has created stage channels, which I think complements that gamer mentality really well. And then the last thing I have on my mind is, could I see someone like Facebook get into this? I mean, they already have Facebook Messenger, and I don't see why they couldn't create something like a Facebook Space of some sorts. But yeah, I think overall it's tough for Clubhouse because so many tech companies are sort of building their own product and might move Clubhouse out of the way and might run them out of business. So I'm unsure if people want to keep Clubhouse as a separate app when you can just use another app that already has that feature.
Yeah, that's a good point. And on the I guess collaboration and open marketplace side, I know today we also wanted to talk about some of these I wouldn't say private equity, but access to private shares of companies that aren't yet listed, such as CartaX and Republic, which are two platforms essentially where in Republic you can go get essentially early stage deals for varying stages of a company through a seed round or an angel round of investing through late stage equity before the company goes public. You can link that through Alto IRA and other services to get access for tax advantaged accounts. CartaX and Carta, kind of provides really a way for employees of private companies to sell their shares through this marketplace, but also for people like us. Drawing Capital focuses on public markets, but for us personally, if we wanted access to any sort of private company shares, we'd be able to get that through somewhere like CartaX. It's nice also for the employees. I mean, people have lives, and if they need to buy a house, they need liquidity for some reason. It helps circumvent a type of 2000 tech bubble scenario where if people wanted to take some of that risk off of the table, they have a means to do so now, which I think is just awesome. And in my mind, I kind of see Carta and services like them as really the next vanguards and discount brokers of the world, where you'll have just an easy place to go. It'll get more frictionless over time, that you can easily transact with these companies that aren't yet public for accredited investors, which is really very exciting. Sagar, Anything that you wanted to chat about there? I know you've personally taken a look at these things closely as well.
Yeah, I think, Sean, you provided a good description and overview. I mean, overall, taking a more kind of larger landscape, I really find the idea of private online marketplaces to be particularly fascinating. And so, really, at their core, marketplaces are often two-sided networks in that a marketplace company needs to find both the buyer and seller and then match them up on the marketplace platform. So, I mean, we see this in e-commerce. So, for example, like early e-commerce pioneers included like Amazon, Alibaba, Etsy, eBay, and so many more. And really, I think what the really interesting question is, why now compared to why 5 years ago, or why compared to 10 years ago? Like what makes today so compelling? And I think really it's the combination of fractional ownership, tokenization, and distribution, spreading towards so many other things. So as you talked about, Carta, Republic, Equity Zen is another one. They all facilitate transactions for private shares. I know Joe Lonsdale is also building a private exchange for companies as well. So this is certainly a growing field. It certainly tackles an immediate need that many people have in search of liquidity, outside of all of these other channels, such as special purpose vehicles, so SPVs and the like. And then taking this kind of marketplace concept one step further is for private companies, micro acquire, connect startups and acquirers. StockX is a marketplace for sneakers and streetwear. Airbnb connects travelers with suppliers of hospitality, housing, and experiences. So obviously the list goes on. And I guess from a business perspective, Drawing Capital has identified a number of key metrics to track the success of marketplaces, such as gross merchandise volume, take rate, average order value, contribution margin, net promoter score, and a few other metrics. But I would say those are some of the key metrics to define it. But really, overall, I think marketplaces, these are just going to keep growing more and more. The total addressable market for something that may seem super niche, like Jordan sneakers, now all of a sudden StockX has really just created liquidity and created a marketplace where people that are really enthusiastic about seemingly a very small category can actually become a very, very large category. And then the rise of digital assets and NFTs is just, in my opinion, just going to take things one step further in the marketplace evolution.
Define that quickly for everyone, Sagar. NFTs, what are they? Why are they relevant?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of taking a step back there, so NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens. So they are digital assets that get recorded on the blockchain. So we'll give a real life example is, and then obviously there's been some notable press about NFTs and some selling for millions and millions of dollars. But really it's digital artwork that you have a signature that represents the authenticity and the originality of the artwork. So think of it as in the kind of physical world, when an artist paints something, then there is a one-to-one relationship in that when the artist actually creates that artwork and paints it, that becomes the original, and then there will be copies made over time, and then people can hang them, in their living room, etc. And typically that's a copy, and there's only really one original, or maybe a set of originals if the artist painted multiple copies as the original, or multiple versions as the original. Now let's take that artwork concept in the physical world and put that into the digital world, and then we can see that there's so many extrapolations and so many different versions of digital art that can now be timestamped, recorded, and really with blockchain and really a lot of transactions are done via Ethereum. That's where this rise of NFTs is really taking off there.
Jugal, I just want to pass it to you quickly. I know that you've had some interesting thoughts with NFTs as well, but why is that the future versus the current way of doing business and transacting in these sorts of pieces of artwork or digital assets?
I think it's the future primarily because NFTs, I mean, Sagar said it pretty well, but it gives digital artwork a way of becoming truly original. Whereas I have plenty of friends that think NFTs are a bubble and worthless because they're like, I can just copy the JPEG file or the image file that somebody put on OpenSea.com. And I said, there's a different aspect to it because as a human being and as thinking sort of philosophically, there is actual meaning to having the original copy of something. That is the reason why we pay so much, or why museums pay so much for certain artifacts or for certain paintings. Like, it does mean something, and clearly it's shown over the history of humanity. So it's hard to discredit that. But yeah, NFTs just make it really easy to prove that this is truly the original, and you don't have to argue with anybody, or pay somebody to verify anything, or it's just like it's virtually impossible to verify the originality of a digital item without something like a blockchain that proves it in the core of the technology. But it's, in my opinion, it's going to take a long time for people to really absorb that and feel the same way as like blockchain enthusiasts. So I totally understand why people don't think NFTs are worth anything today.
Sure. Well, thanks for the insights to both of you, and hope everyone has a great weekend. Just as a quick recap, we talked about marketplaces for private company equity. We talked about Clubhouse and audio-only chat platforms, and dived into NFTs as well. We hope you all enjoyed it, and would love to see you here again next week. Take care, everyone.